Welcome to this explainer. You know, right now, as you're just sitting there, your heart is beating, your blood pressure is being carefully regulated, your pupils are actively adjusting to the light, and whatever you ate last is currently being digested. And honestly, the best part? You don't have to consciously think about a single one of those things. Your body is equipped with this absolutely incredible internal autopilot. So today, we're going to teach in depth and unpack exactly how that autopilot works. Okay, let's dive into this and explore the foundations of the autonomic nervous system.
Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to start by meeting the system as a whole. Then we'll split it into its two massive opposing forces, the sympathetic stress response and the parasympathetic relaxation system. From there, we'll zoom right into the brain to see how those forces are balanced, and finally, we'll look at the complex synergies where they actually have to work together.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, Meet the Autonomic Nervous System, your body's ultimate autopilot.
So the autonomic nervous system, or ANS, is this vast, widely distributed network of neurons. Basically, it's the biological infrastructure that regulates your body's entire internal environment. We're talking about your organs, your glands, your blood vessels, the whole shebang. And the key word to remember here is automatically. Unlike your somatic nervous system, which is what lets you consciously decide to, say, raise your arm or walk across the room, the ANS operates entirely under the hood. It's a highly autonomous, continuous loop of sensory input and motor output that literally keeps you alive without you ever having to lift a mental finger.
Now, you might be wondering, what's the ultimate goal of all this automatic regulation? Well, it boils down to one foundational concept in biology, and that's homeostasis. Homeostasis is the maintenance of a perfectly stable internal environment. Think of it like an incredibly advanced predictive thermostat. The ANS is constantly taking in sensory information from all over your body to anticipate exactly what you need. Cold? It restricts blood flow to your skin. Just ate? It ramps up your stomach acid. It's this perpetual tug of war, constantly making tiny micro-adjustments to keep your biological systems in perfect, dynamic balance.
To pull off that delicate balancing act, the system relies on two main branches. Let's look at the first one, in Section 2, this sympathetic stress response, which gets us ready for action.
The sympathetic division of your nervous system is basically your short-term emergency responder, and it's perfectly summarized by the classic 4Fs framework: fight, flight, fright, and sex. Whenever your brain perceives a threat or, a highly arousing biological imperative, this system essentially hijacks your body to ensure your immediate survival and reproduction. It abruptly shifts all of your body's resources away from long-term maintenance and pours them entirely into the present moment.
So what does that hijacking actually look like? Physiologically, it's that classic fight-or-flight state we've all felt. Your heart rate and blood pressure spike to pump oxygen to your muscles, your pupils dilate to let in more light so you can spot threats, your liver suddenly dumps its mobilized glucose reserves right into your blood for instant energy, and crucially, it actively inhibits your digestive functions. I mean, you literally don't need to digest a sandwich if you're running from a tiger, right? But the anatomy behind this is just as fascinating. This massive response originates in a very specific place. The starting neurons, the preganglionic axons, emerge only from the middle of your back, specifically the thoracic and lumbar segments of your spinal cord. They then immediately plug into what's called the sympathetic chain, which runs right alongside your spine. This setup is absolutely vital because it acts as a central distribution hub, allowing that alarm signal to be broadcast rapidly and simultaneously across your entire body.
To truly understand this system on a deep level, we have to look at the microscopic chemistry, because it works almost exactly like a biological relay race. First, the preganglionic neuron fires off acetylcholine, hitting nicotinic receptors for incredibly fast excitation. It's kind of like flipping the master alarm switch. Then, the second runner in the relay, the postganglionic neuron, releases norepinephrine directly onto the target organs. Unlike acetylcholine, which is super localized, norepinephrine spreads widely. And then we have the ultimate reinforcement, the adrenal medulla. This structure acts like a highly specialized, modified sympathetic ganglion. When the alarm hits the adrenal gland, it dumps epinephrine, which you probably know as adrenaline, straight into your bloodstream. This chemical flood reinforces the stress response across literally every single tissue in your body. It is a deeply coordinated chemical shock and awe campaign.
But obviously, we can't live in a state of shock and awe forever, which brings us to Section 3. Parasympathetic relaxation and recovery, keeping us calm for the long term.
Let's see how the body builds a completely opposing system. If the sympathetic system is the gas pedal, the parasympathetic system is absolutely the brakes. Physiologically, it decreases your heart rate and your blood pressure. It tells your gut to start peristalsis and secrete digestive juices so you can actually process your food. And it takes total dominance when you're in deep,
non-REM sleep, which is what allows your body to repair itself. Anatomically, it's the exact opposite of the sympathetic side. Instead of emerging from the middle of the spine, the parasympathetic neurons emerge from the absolute top and bottom, the brainstem and the sacral segments right near your tailbone. And rather than using a central chain of ganglia next to the spine, the parasympathetic ganglia are pushed all the way out. They're located right next to or even inside the target organs themselves, which allows for very precise, localized control rather than a massive body-wide alarm.
Now, you simply cannot talk about the parasympathetic system without highlighting its absolute superhighway, the vagus nerve, or cranial nerve 10. This massive nerve bundle drops straight down from your brainstem and snakes its way all through your body, physically wiring your brain to your heart, your lungs, and your digestive tract. It is the primary physical conduit for telling your internal organs to just chill out, repair, and recover.
And the chemistry of this relaxation is just beautifully simple compared to the stress response. Both the preganglionic and postganglionic neurons use the exact same neurotransmitter, acetylcholine. But here is the real biological genius. At the target organ, that acetylcholine binds to muscarinic receptors. Because these are G-protein-coupled receptors, they don't just kick open a cellular door instantly. They trigger complex metabolic cascades inside the cell that actually take time to unfold. This results in slow inhibitory effects. For example, it slowly hyperpolarizes the pacemaker cells in your heart, gently bringing your heart rate down. Panic is instant, for sure, but true biological relaxation, that takes time by design.
So we have these two massive, deeply ingrained physiological forces. Who's actually directing traffic here? That brings us to Section 4, the hypothalamic balance of power.
The really crucial point is that these two systems are reciprocal. They cannot both be strongly active at the exact same time because their biological goals are completely incompatible. Like we said, you can't actively digest a meal while routing all your blood to your running muscles. The entity managing this delicate balance is the periventricular zone of the hypothalamus, nestled deep within your brain. It acts as the master regulator. It gathers intelligence from your higher brain regions, the telencephalon, and other zones, constantly weighing your current environmental demands and then subtly turning the dial between sympathetic stress and parasympathetic calm to make sure you survive.
But the hypothalamus doesn't work alone. It needs raw, internal intelligence. That is where the nucleus of the solitary tract comes in. Located way down on the brainstem, in the medulla, this nucleus acts as a massive sensory integration hub. Remember that huge vagus nerve we just talked about? Well, it's not just a one-way street sending comm signals down. It's also sending vast amounts of sensory data back up from your internal organs. The nucleus of the solitary tract reads that data, like your current blood pressure or your gut distension, and coordinates the perfect autonomic adjustments.
Now, what happens when a threat doesn't just disappear after a few minutes? What happens during sustained, prolonged stress? Well, the hypothalamus has a backup system, the endocrine connection, specifically the HPA axis. If the nervous system is an instant text message, the endocrine system is a certified letter. It takes longer to arrive, but its effects last much longer. Step 1, the hypothalamus releases a hormone called CRH. Step 2, that signals the pituitary gland right below it to release ACTH into your blood. Step 3, ACTH travels down to the adrenal cortex, telling it to pump out cortisol. Cortisol is a long-lasting stress hormone that fundamentally alters your metabolism to help your body endure a prolonged crisis. It's a brilliant survival mechanism, but one that's definitely meant to eventually turn off.
For our final section, let's look at what happens when these deeply opposing systems actually have to collaborate. Section 5, synergies and complex interactions. This brilliantly illustrates that biology is rarely just black and white. While the sympathetic and parasympathetic systems usually oppose each other, sometimes they have to orchestrate highly complex sequences together. Take the human sexual response. In males, for example, parasympathetic activity is absolutely required first to initiate the response by relaxing the smooth muscles in the arteries. But to actually achieve completion, the brain must execute a precise, coordinated shift over to high sympathetic activity to trigger ejaculation. It's a very delicate sequential handoff. Another cool synergy involves the enteric nervous system. You have this massive network of neurons lining your gut, often called your little brain, and it's capable of controlling digestion semi-autonomously. However, during an acute crisis, the sympathetic system sweeps in and actively overrides that gut's little brain, forcefully suppressing digestion to redirect all that vital energy toward your muscles and your brain. When push comes to shove, the hierarchy of survival always wins out.
So we've explored how your internal autopilot masterfully balances short-term survival with long-term recovery. But I want to leave you with this final thought. Your biology evolved to handle acute, temporary stress, running from a predator and then resting. But today, our threats are often chronic psychological stressors, endless emails, financial worries, 24-hour news cycles. Knowing that your body actively suppresses digestion, cellular repair, and relaxation every single time those sympathetic alarm bells ring, how might a modern lifestyle of constant low-grade stress be impacting your fundamental biology over time? Understanding your autonomic nervous system isn't just about learning anatomy. It's the very first step in actively protecting your own homeostasis. Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with me.